Okay, today we are talking about fullness. That feeling you have when you actually have eaten a decent amount of food and you feel fullness in your stomach. What emotions come up when you think of fullness? When you feel full, what do you typically feel in addition to that physical sensation? I'm going to tell you some of the things that I experienced when I felt full before I had rewired my brain to no longer fear weight gain. So, every time I ate to fullness, I would be terrified that that would immediately result in weight gain. If I ate to fullness, it was as if I had just gained 5 pounds in that very meal. It terrified the living daylights out of me. Hazel's about to jump out of her high chair. So fullness for me would kind of instill that fear, remind me of that fear that I have of weight gain. Another thing that it meant for me was, oh my gosh, now that you've got yourself full, now you can't eat for, however many hours, because I had some rule in my head that once I felt full, I couldn't, eat soon after, even if I wanted to. So I felt like if I always just kind of stopped before I got full, then I always had that window or ability to then eat if somebody offered me something spontaneously or if something else came, my way that looked appealing. But if I was full, then it was like, oh no, now I have to, resist the urge to want to eat that because I'm not allowed to eat it anymore. Another thing that it did for me was whenever I felt full or I ate a lot of food and something went wrong in my day, it was because of that. It's because I ate that extra serving at lunch. It's because I ate the chocolate in the morning. It's because I chose to be completely committed to absolutely not giving into that walk that I so badly wanted to do earlier. It's because, and it was always like, because, I didn't give in to my eating disorder behavior, and especially with the fullness. Like if I felt full, I just felt more. I felt more vulnerable. I felt like, oh no, something bad could happen, and I don't have that feeling of being empty or really hungry to rely on because I've eaten too much, right? If that's a thing. Then the other thing was whenever I started to feel really full, I thought or felt in my body almost like I had to get up and move. If I felt fullness or food in my stomach, I had to get up and move. And I hated that urge or that really, really strong temptation to want to move. So I felt like if I just always slightly underate, then I could cope with the idea of not having to move, since I was supposed to be committed to not moving. But you see how you have to be committed to both. You have to be committed to eating as much as your body's asking for, getting full very often, if not all the time in recovery, and not moving. I always had regret, remorse. I would ruminate over and over and over and over in my head what I had eaten and what a bad idea it was, and I'm never going to do that again, and why did I let myself have that extra? I should have just stopped before, blah, 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 right? Just like mental torment. The other thing to remember is when you do eat a good amount, or sometimes not even a good amount, and you feel that fullness in your stomach, sometimes we get prematurely full, you have to also ask yourself, could some of this fullness, this feeling, be attributed to the anxiety that I experienced from eating? Because for me, a lot of times I would over-exaggerate my feeling of fullness and be like, oh my gosh, I ate so much. But really, for me, when I felt anxiety, it felt like a brick in my stomach. So that was kind of an artificial sense of fullness coming from the anxiety, but I kind of blamed it on the food that I had eaten. So you got to really check yourself with that. If your anxiety is super heightened and really, really high and you're feeling full, maybe consider or give some of that credit to the anxiety, not so much the food that you just ate. And then the other thing for me, whenever I felt not full or like my stomach was empty, I felt, kind of going off of the point earlier, I felt more in control. I felt like I was immune to bad things happening because, I had restricted or I hadn't let myself let go or lose control by getting full. So there were two things that I asked myself, these questions that I started asking myself to get, oh, can you tell she just say to Brownie, say hi. Hazel, do you feel full? Hi. Oh boy, this is getting to be a problem when I do videos. I'm sorry, she keeps popping up. It's like she doesn't stop until she gets in the camera. Anyways, the two questions that I asked myself that helped me when I was contemplating, like, do I keep eating until I feel that fullness? And then when I was sitting with that guilt of feeling full, these were the questions I'd ask myself. The first one was, if food had no calories, would I eat it? Or if food had no calories, would I have eaten it? And if the answer was no, food didn't have any calories, I 100% would have eaten that, or I would 100% eat more right now, then you need to eat more. So food did not have any calories in it, and it did not lead to weight gain. Let's pretend it didn't. Would you eat it? And if the answer is yes, you have to follow through. You have to be honest, okay? And then the second question I asked myself is, am I acting like someone who is committed to recovery in this moment? So if I, because I felt full, then felt like, oh, I need to go for a walk. Is that something that someone in recovery would do? Is that what we're being taught to do in recovery, is go move after we eat a lot of food? Of course not. So ask yourself that. Before you make that decision, before you make that choice, say, am I acting like I'm in recovery right now? And if the answer is no, you need to change your action, right? Or if I did this thing, would that show my brain that I am committed to recovery? So an example of that would be, oh man, I am really, really full, and 10 minutes later I'm thinking about ice cream sundae, but I can't because I just ate. I just had that big meal and I was full, and what's wrong with me? And I'm not gonna have it. I'm gonna wait till, my designated snack time. I'm not gonna eat it. Is that somebody who's committed to recovery? Of course not, right? So that question for me just made my decision so cut and dry. It made it so clear to me what I needed to do when I asked myself if food had no calories, and if I asked myself, am I acting like somebody who is truly in recovery right now? Those questions kept me very accountable and on track in my recovery. So I'm gonna leave it with that. Hazel's losing it, but hopefully this video helped in some way. Have a good day.